Hey everyone, it's Leon. We've been talking up the new NMS product for a little bit, but there's always more to dig into. Now, in this video, I want to discuss the fact that Kentik isn't perfect. It doesn't collect every piece of data you might possibly need. Now, before you clutch your pearls or call for a fainting couch or need smelling salts or any of that, I need to point out that no monitoring or observability tool does that. It's neither feasible nor advisable to collect every single metric. Nobody in their right mind would pay that kind of money, and the performance would be off the chart, the bottom of the chart, like it would be non-existent in terms of performance. But NMS doesn't just do the best it can, call it a day, and tell customers to lump it. There is a way to add custom metrics, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What I'm going to show you is how to add a single custom SNMP element, also called an object ID or an OID. There are other ways to collect custom metrics, but I can't do everything in one video, just like I can't collect every piece of data. And therefore, I'm going to focus on just SNMP data for today. Now, before we go any further, I want to admit that this video is really text heavy. There's going to be a lot of text and typing on the screen. There are config files and specific directories and everything. So if you're the type of person who always wants to pause the video and scribble down notes, don't. There is a blog that's already been written. It's linked in the description, and it has all the typing done for you. So you can just sort of sit back, relax, watch this all flow, and then you can go back to the blog post and look at the notes. All right, to begin with, let me introduce you to the OID in question. Okay, so the object that we want is actually 1.3.6.1.4.1.2021.1316.2.1.3.1. Got that? Yeah, of course, everyone has that memorized. Anyway, that just gives me a gauge value of a temperature. It's actually in thousands, so we have to do a little bit of math on it. We're not going to get to that today, but that is the thing that I want to collect. But before we get to collecting, I need to talk about the Kentik NMS Ranger Collector. Those are a lot of words that refer to the agent that sits in your environment, either on a regular Linux installation or as a container, and collects the data and then sends it up to the Kentik platform for displaying, alerting, and so on. So there's a few things I need to go over for custom configurations. First, let's talk about where the configurations go. If you look back on my screen, I'll make it big again. You can see I'm already in there. It's in opt, Kentik, components, ranger, local config. Now, the local config part, that last part, may or may not be there initially. You might have to create it, and that's okay. You can just go ahead and create it. But inside that area, there, you need to create 3 other folders, and that's what you see here. You need profiles, reports, and sources. Now, I'm going to be honest. You actually don't need those directories. You can throw everything right into the config folder and just call it a day. However, life gets messy, right? As long as the files refer to each other and use the right typing or kind, that's an important word. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. You'll be all right. But 2 weeks from now and a dozen, let alone 100 custom configs from now, and it's going to be a mess. So you're really better off getting off on the right foot and just starting with an organized structure as it goes. The next thing I need to do is tell you that these are going to be YAML files. Now, this is not going to be a video on the joys of YAML. Now, not to kink shame, but I don't think that that kind of video exists, nor probably should it exist. Again, not to kink shame. That said, here's a quick rundown of some of the YAML stuff that you're just going to need to know to keep moving along. Here we go. First of all, it's a text file. That's not hard. Second of all, everything that goes in a YAML file is going to be in a key value pair. You see where we have version is the key, the value is 1, name is the key, local-Linux is the value. You have CPU temp, and bang SNMP, and so on. And that's another thing, is that the differentiator, the delineator between the key and the value is always going to be a colon, right? That's always going to come before. The key name is the variable name, and then the value on the other side is what that variable name is going to be in it. And they can be almost anything. The most important part about YAML is indentation. It matters. Now, I've set my editor to show you that I have 2 spaces here and 2 spaces there. And if I did 3 spaces, if I did 3 spaces or 4 spaces, this YAML file wouldn't work. The spacing absolutely matters. It has to line up, and it has to be the same kind. So you cannot mix and match tabs and spaces. For those of you who've grown up or been in IT long enough to hear the joking between programmers about, tabs versus spaces, I'm here to tell you that with YAML files and Python, it really matters. Not only does it matter that indentation has to match, but also that the indentation has to be the same, that you can't mix and match tabs and spaces. So with that out of the way, let's go over the differences between sources, reports, and profiles. We'll start off with this file. It's a source file. And what it tells you is about one or more objects that Kentik NMS is going to collect custom. So that object is right here. That's the same one that we used in my other example. What this file is telling me is that the name of this source is local Linux. What kind of file is it? It's a source or sources file. It tells me that it's going to be an SNMP type value. The value is coming from that object ID or OID, and it's going to be collected every 60 seconds. That's it. That's what everything is telling me. Now let's move on to the reports. I'm going to jump and say kind reports. As long as this says reports, it doesn't matter what directory it's in. That's why I said you could put everything together, but you don't want to because it's kind of a pain. But anyway, reports tell you how to display a specific object within the Metrics Explorer. So here, again, the name is local temp for temperature. The kind is reports. It's going to show up in Metrics Explorer under the /device/linux/temp area. It'll make more sense when we get into Metrics Explorer, but that's where it's going to show up. Then you've got the name of the variable. The value is going to be CPU temp. The actual object or data is coming from that. It is a metric. It is not a word or something like that. And once again, it's going to display by default in a 60-second interval. Finally, let's look at profiles. Now, profiles tell us which reports should be associated with which types of devices. It figures out the devices based on this system object ID or sysobject ID object. And this one, 8072, and 1.3.6.1.4.1, 8072 refers to anything that is Linux-like. That could be a Raspberry Pi, it could be a VM, it could be anything. All right. So once again, it is the name is local.net-snmp. The kind is a profile. It should match any device that has this system object ID. Again, that's anything Linux-like. The report that I want to use is local temp. What is that again? Oh, wait a second. Name local temp. Aha. Okay. So the report that I want to incorporate is local temp. And I also want to include a built-in variable or built-in data type called device name IP, which gives me the device name and the IP. Once I have these three files in place under profiles and under reports and so on, once I have them, all I need to do is restart the Kentik agent. So I'm going to do sudo system control restart Kentik agent. Ask for my password. No, I'm not going to tell you my password. And it is restarted. And in a minute, literally a minute, because we said 60 seconds is the cycle for collecting data, I'm going to start to have information in the Kentik portal in Kentik NMS. And through the miracle of video editing, it has been a minute. It's actually been more than a minute. It's been a few minutes, and I want to take a look at it. Now, one of the things that hits people immediately is that it's not here. The data isn't on this main NMS screen. And that's because you have to actually build a graph and put it into a dashboard. So I'm going to go to Metrics Explorer, and I'm going to go down to, remember how we said it was going to show up under device Linux temp? That's where it's going to be. The metrics I want are CPU temp. That's the only metric I want. And I'm going to group by device name and device IP. And that's it. I'm just going to hit go. And there is a running line of the temperatures along the way. And now I can take this information and I can add it to a dashboard and put it on a screen, or I can build it into a report, or I can use it in alert or whatever. Now, I know that this was a lot to cover. Once again, if you look down in the description, there's a blog link there that gives you all of the actions step by step. You can copy paste the configs and try it yourself without having to worry about fat fingering or mistyping. And you should look for more NMS walkthroughs like this coming soon. For Kentik, I'm Leon Adato.